call to order the real estate facilities and land management meeting March 19th, 4:30. Begin with a moment of silence. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Dear Father, thank you that we are here, that we are alive, that we have opportunities and opportunity tonight to do work. Help us to do our work well during this meeting, to do work that you'd have us do for the betterment of not only the citizens of the county, but the state, throughout the country, just to do our part. By your will, and in your name I pray. Amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve October 17th, 2023 regular minutes.
Make a motion.
Second.
Start with the motion, second by Mr. Miles. Any corrections? All in favor? Aye. Mr. Phil Shirley on High Falls County Park.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council committee. I wanted to spend a few minutes this afternoon with you and talk about High Falls County Park. And I've got a couple of items that I need just a little bit of direction on that'll help us steer the ship a little bit moving forward. Just a few background pieces for us as we go through the presentation today, just as reminders. This is a park we began leasing from Duke Energy in 1971, and our current lease goes through the operation license with FERC. Our last lease, we made it to where it would go as long as they were operating, so we wouldn't have to keep doing it. So we've got that set up. It's 46 acres. You can see the campsites, the number of picnic sites, and all the fun amenities that we have there at the park. Since we did the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Capital Development Fund back in, I think it was 1819. These are the things we've been able to address at High Falls County Park. The new point shelter that you see the picture of, we've been able to replace the old patio deck with a new one and ADA restrooms. We're currently working on the recreation building. We've been working on the shoreline restoration with assistance from Duke Energy HEP grants. We do that piece at a time as that money comes in. And of course, Alexander Cannon Hill House restoration, which we'll talk a little bit more about today. In addition to our capital projects, our staff does a tremendous amount of programs every year. Last year, we did over 50 programs. Most of them are a 25-person max in those programs, because that's the space that we have, depending on what we're doing. And a majority of the time, they fill up. So we're excited about what we offer. Our staff is certified in interpretation and master naturalists, and so they do a really good job of presenting those things to the public and offering those different programs throughout the year. Just some data points, post-COVID, some of the things we've been seeing. Pre-COVID, we were steadily climbing a little bit. Post-COVID, you can see we're sustaining at a really high level. We're seeing numbers that we haven't experienced before on our camping nights. We're also seeing that on our vehicle traffic into the park. We don't count our served visitors as the traffic that comes into the park, because you got people coming and going. We serve right at 100,000 people a year at High Falls, and that number comes from the actual workload indicators that we have. So the number of parking passes, the number of camping nights, the number of things that we actually transact. So we've got a tremendous amount of growth. You can see the revenue matches the camping nights that you would expect, because that's our biggest piece of revenue. And it's kind of holding at that good level. So we're almost $100,000 a year more post-COVID in revenue than we were pre-COVID. So it's a really, really good place to be. But the 2 points that I want to bring up tonight for some direction. First one is the Alexander Cannon Hill House. You are somewhat familiar. We had a discussion about this past year, and our original proposal was a all-in-one proposal where everything was together. It was a project management firm. It was an architectural firm, and obviously it did not meet the the desire of us moving forward with that direction. What we've done is we've broken that apart, and we're going to do the project management in-house, and took the architect out and utilized some local preservation groups to help us restore it room by room as the funds become available. So what I'd like to do, just with the house here, this is a picture of it sitting below the dam back before it was moved to the property in 1972. You can see the work that we've done on the house. We put the porch on it in 2006 with a grant, and we began internal restorations of the public side of the property in 2022. And then we began some structural restoration in 2023. Our growth has demanded that we've got to start utilizing the upstairs of that property. It's been just storage to this point. In order to do that, we got to make sure it meets our structural building codes. So as part of the structural restoration, we received an opinion that had two liabilities on the property, on the structure. One was the internal chimney did not have adequate support all the way down. The second one was the live load of the second floor to be able to occupy it from a user standpoint other than storage. So what we are recommending that we do is utilize our on-call structural engineer and piece those pieces out. We've already done the chimney support structural engineer work. That cost us less than $6,000. We've got that in hand. We just have to bid it out now, do the work. We'll also do the same thing with the live load of the second floor. I feel like that'll come back, and we'll just have to sister those floor joists and maybe sister the wall joist downstairs to cover the load, additional load that we're going to put on that second floor. Anytime you start dealing with a property, you got to bring it up to electrical code. So we'll also do an electrical upgrade to the property, and that'll get us back into the house. When those two liabilities came forward, we took our staff out of the house, and we're operating out of a temporary office there on the property. So that'll get us back into the house and allow us to restore it room by room as funds allow. I wanted to confirm your direction because originally we had a all-in-one project. So this is an effort to break that out, reduce a good bit of cost, project management ourselves, and do it piece by piece as we move forward. So would love any questions on that piece of the pie as we move forward.
I think the biggest thing that I saw with this house, two things, is the historical value to Oconee County. The second is the value of the structure versus building a new structure. Because you can always go out there and build a new office and do all that stuff. And this has, for the longest time, actually saved money from having to do that. Not only that, it's preserving part of history. So I think there was some, in my opinion, confusion on what we're trying to do long-term. And if you're familiar with what's going on at High Falls, the growth, not only in High Falls, but our other part, the necessity of utilizing what we have while, on the other side of preserving some history, to me is a good value. So I think coming back with what you've got, meets, what I was okay with it the first time because I understand what we have to go through for preserving history. And I understand what's required when stuff is on the historical landmark. And some of the stuff we don't necessarily always have a choice of that, especially if we're getting grants, because we have had grants before because it is a piece of history. So, I think there's some misunderstanding of what a grant can do and why grants apply and how they have to be used specific ways. But I'm in agreement with what y'all are, proposing here for that.
I agree with you. I'd like to see the numbers, how things shake out.
Well, it'll be piece by piece coming back. And I really only anticipate maybe one of those reaching the $50,000 number. That structural on the roof may reach that to come back. Everything else, I think, will be under that level, and we'll be able to do it with either ATAX money or capital project money.
That'd be great. Be great.
Any other?
I feel good about it too. I didn't feel good about $89,000 and not a nail drove.
I understand.
So that's the reason I was opposed to it, but if y'all can do it in-house, that's saving the taxpayer money.
Well, we'll still have to have the engineering part of it done, because I want to make sure the liability is covered on our end. But the project management, we can work on in-house.
And I like keeping the money here and using locals to do it if we can.
Some of the reasoning for not doing that originally was from a time standpoint. I mean, it's, if we use it in-house, who would be overseeing the project? Would it be you?
No, Stephen Scott would handle the project management of the project work. So he would work with each engineer.
How much of the cost of the 89,000 was to oversee the project?
I'd have to pull that back out. There was
Less than,
the majority of that was, and the architect side.
right.
So we're taking that piece out, and we'll work with local preservationists and our staff to design each room as we move through it, once we get the structural integrity back in place.
I just don't want everybody sit up here thinking you're gonna save this $89,000, because there's still a cost associated with doing it. It's just a different method of doing it. And while, you know, we just need to be cautious of the time of our staff, even though we can do it, don't overload your staff by doing something that can be done quicker through other methods. But I appreciate you bringing that back, and, you know.
We're doing the South Cove residence property that way now, and we did price it out both ways, and we're saving a little over $100,000 doing it this way versus a complete turnkey project where somebody else has oversight over it. So if we run into any issues, certainly we'll come back to you, but this is the direction we'd like to take off on.
What's the square footage of the house?
I'm the wrong one to be asking. 3,000?
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do we need to refer to council? Action from the committee?
It would be good, yes.
I'll make the motion to refer this to council April 7th?
Second.
Second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that?
That's
All in favor?
Very good, thank you. The second piece of this puzzle is the entire park itself. And the entire park is, as you saw, 46 acres. We've been able to do infrastructure improvements at the other two county parks through the years. This one we've been holding off on because back in 2017, Duke offered us a piece of property there near the park for an expansion. So we've been kind of exploring that through the years. Duke paid for a master plan for us in 2017. I think you've all seen it vaguely or at a high level. We've shared it with you a little bit. But we've got two options that we really need some direction on because we're kind of at a point where we can't serve our public from the campground side because of how old our infrastructure is. We've got 30 amp power, we've got really old water lines that are breaking on us. And so we can't serve the larger campers that are coming in. And it's been a challenge when you've got that much growth and your infrastructure is limited to you. So I'm asking for some direction on one or the other. Either renovate our existing infrastructure or let's really get serious and proceed with the talks of this expansion on the property. Here's kind of what that looks like. To renovate our existing infrastructure, we would need to upgrade the electrical service into the campground to get 50 amp service to every site. We would upgrade the water service throughout the campground. We would rebuild the elevated campsites. You can see that they're all out of the old cross ties from years ago, which has presented a lot of challenges. They're Band-Aided as much as we can Band-Aid them. And then we would expand some of our smaller sites that were built in the 70s to more accommodate today's camping model. It's completely different today than what it was as a pop-up or an Airstream back in the 70s. So that's kind of what we would do if we renovated our existing infrastructure. We would do it just like I explained on the White House. It would be internal project management, and we would piece it out. The challenge is you can reserve a campsite 11 months in advance. So in us to plan this, we've got to go out at least 12 months in advance and close our campground to prepare for us to be able to do the work. So we've got to have enough direction to be able to plan it out and to set that in motion to stop the reservations, to give us an ample amount of time to go in and do the work. So that's our first option. Our second option is to actually move forward and consider the expansion. This is the property at the end of Waterfalls Road. Duke has offered to us, it's called High Falls 2 in their recreation plan. It is 36 acres. This master plan that was done in 2017 allows for 81 RV sites, 6 cabins, 4 restrooms. I didn't include on there, but it's also 2 playgrounds, and there is a single boat slip that the campers would use. This would be a camper-only spot, whereas right now, the campers and day-use folks come into High Falls to utilize the property. This would separate, and the campers would have their own place to create a little more serene opportunity for them. And then our existing park, this was also part of the master plan draw, would get some significant work as well to turn all that camping that's there now into picnic sites. We would double the amount of people we could serve from a day-use standpoint for our locals to be able to get to the water. So it would become an existing day-use park only with no camping. We would double our boat access parking. We would turn the existing sites into picnic sites. We'd have additional shelters for rental revenue, and then allow additional lake access points for our residents. So I just kind of need some direction because our infrastructure is literally crumbling under us, and we've got to take some steps one way or the other moving forward. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I know the need exists for additional camping. If we did proceed with High Falls going to day use and building up the new campsite, there would be some grant funding that we could explore that could possibly assist with that.
We would explore grant funding. We would explore Duke Energy during the relicensing because there's going to be a run study done for the user needs around the lake that could potentially provide some impact. We've had some initial discussions where there's an interest from Duke to provide some capital infrastructure. They're not going to have the ability to do any O&M for us, but they'll do some capital infrastructure help for this project. But that's probably going to be 25-ish, 26 when they go through that relicensing for that Kiwi Toxway project.
I mean, based on what we're seeing in revenues from South Cove, it doesn't pay for the project, but it does help assist with the cost associated with running those. The local attendance has gone up too as well.
Oh, yeah.
From what I've seen on all of our camps, and then taking over some of the Hartwell areas as well. So I think, to me, having that area as day use improves access to the lake area, especially for our local areas, especially on that side. I don't think, in my opinion, we can continue operating High Falls without significant improvements. And to me, you'd be better to spend the money to take the camping out of there and just create that day use area. From a local standpoint, I think that's better suited for what I would want as a local resident.
Personally, I think that we ought to go for the new campsite, especially with Duke Power giving us that property and possibly helping pay for the creating the sites. So I would be for the new site.
I like the idea of creating that entire new site. I mean, like you said, your campground spaces now are for 1970 campers. And now you've got 42-footers coming in.
With 2 and 3 air conditions.
Yeah.
Well, we
And
just tell them at the gate, unless you got a generator,
And then they
please
got a
only
huge-
run one at a time.
a huge slide out, so if you can engineer that new one to accommodate the larger units that come in, and I think that's the way to go. And like you said, and like Julian said, create that, and then the other part be a day use.
Got to work cut out.
I would, make the motion to take the original High Falls, do a project showing that as day use and creation of, would that be High Falls 2 for campground?
Yes.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
I would like to, we had a camper. And I personally wouldn't go to a campground that didn't have full service, full hookup. It'd be nice if that new part would have some type of full hookups.
The new part, I'll turn it off, sorry. The upper road, inside the upper road, there's an opportunity to do that, but we don't have anywhere to take it. So we've got to have a spill site somewhere if we're going to have full service. And we're so close to the water,
Yeah.
we don't have access to that opportunity. And without having sewer in that area, I don't have anywhere to get it to. So that'd be a challenge there. Some of the other master plans we looked at had some spill site on the property where we could designate. We don't have that here.
That's
But
just,
I agree with you. I
that's
just don't
just
have
pie
that.
in the sky. I didn't
Yeah.
like hauling a little sludge wagon around, you know.
Funny hole.
Well, there is opportunity, what I have seen, going with a, pump truck that's putting in there that is actually, would involve a different style truck. Obviously, we don't own one, but they go around a lot of these larger campsites and it's just empty. And they empty out on whatever that Tuesday is and they go around and fill that up and then it goes to dump. That's something that we could investigate, which is probably, if we're going this way, it would be a good scenario rather than everybody hauling their stuff around. And it's just a fee, it's a fee-based system, but I've seen it used on some very large campgrounds out at the beach. They use a lot of that stuff too, because they don't, otherwise unless you got, your PVC provides you a good flow down in there. They've gone this route, which is easier. They come up, hook up to your camper, you go out there, pull it, flows into the pump truck. And then we, Joint Regional Sewer Authority or whatever we decide to do with it. So just a thought. And that would actually take off from those areas instead of dumping it into whatever site we have. We would carry that sewer authority and pay whatever. But that'd be a fee-based system. But it's built into your disposal. But it works for what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So just something to explore. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Up next is regarding the crushing plant at Oconee County Quarry. We'll have the floor, gentlemen.
I got one extra for you. Good afternoon, gentlemen,
Good afternoon.
ladies. Mr. Reed. They've given me this device here, and I'm not sure I'll do too well with it. But you have this in front of you here in the booklet, and today, gentlemen, we're just coming to Quarry is on behalf of the need to move forward with selling the old crushing plant. And the old plant was the Tailsmith plant. Let me go back to that one. Boy, that skipped way forward. So this is the quarry here, and I guess I've got a pointer on here, don't I? I was gonna do this for the audience, but maybe I won't.
I'm happy to do it for you, Tom.
Well, I've got a green area there. Do y'all see it? I can't see it.
That's a laser light. Let me hold it. I'll try to keep up with what you.
I'm an old man. I'm not, this modern technology sort of got ahead of me. But, okay. So, this coming December, the new plant will be in place for 5 years. And, we haven't been dragging our feet with the sale of the old plant, but we've just tried to keep up with today's demands and production and everything, and it's just hard to get everything done you want to get done. But back in 16 and 17, we entered into an agreement with the Orrs to purchase 50 additional acres next to us. And when we did that, we were anticipating that that property would actually give us about 30 more years of reserves that we could count on for crushing. But since then, we have basically doubled, over doubled the demand for our products, or almost doubled the demand. And that's decreased our time there as being a valid quarry down to about 16 years. And we're in, let's turn the page, please. We are currently, back in September 1, 23, we entered into phase 2 of our reclamation plan. And as you'll see, we just have a few slides up front that we're going to talk about, but there's a lot of background information in the back of the book here that y'all can go back and look at, and we can answer any questions at any time that y'all need to. But phase 2, like I say, we entered into it September 1st, 23, and the old existing plant is basically in that phase 2, and it is necessary for us to remove it so that we can begin to strip and move in that direction so that we can blast that rock and use that stone moving forward. There's a reclamation phase there on 3 where we actually move forward, and we're in the process right now of relocating our existing new plant, which is mobile, and we're going to be moving it about 400 feet away from where it is and realigning it. And tonight, you gentlemen will actually be hearing about a dump box that we're going to be installing to put this machine back in line and move it over to the outskirts of our property. We've been engaged with Goldie to do new detention ponds to control our stormwater and our processed water. And so there's a lot going on. And as we move in that direction, that should allow us about 10 years to be there before we have to move again. But in doing so, we're going to need to be blasting again where this old plant is. And you can look at the different phases there that we've got. And then over time, which is the very last phase, phase 5 is, ultimately it'll be a lake one day, but that's many years away. There's a page here about the Tellsmith plant. It was constructed in 1978. It served the county very well for many, many years. I actually had the opportunity to work with it and own it for about 5 years before we got the new plant. And it just came to the decision that we were going to have to invest too much money into the infrastructure alone just to be able to continue to operate. I think we got an engineering quote for about $2 million just on structural components alone. And we just felt like, as a group, the council felt like with our, of course, our approval, that we felt like it was best to put that $2 million toward, something that's in the 21st century. And we've really done well with the new plant. We've almost, doubled our production. And as you can see, some of the statistics that you'll see in some of this background information, we would not be where we were today if we tried to continue to operate the old plant. We can't keep up now. And I found it interesting. I had a major trucking company call me yesterday to sort of see where we are with our products and stuff, and they just talked about how that we're not the only ones in this place. He says that everybody's here, the big quarries. You go to Heidelberg and Sandy Flats, and they don't have product, and they tell you to go to Pelham to get it. And when you get to Pelham, they don't have the products. And then you go to Vulcan, and so the demand is extremely high right now. And we're doing real well. We just need the time and the support to be able to get the rest of the area opened up, get it stripped, and be ready to start blasting that rock when we can. And we do all that in-house, so that takes quite a bit of effort on top of just meeting production. We're averaging about 3,000 tons a day. I'm giving y'all a lot of extra information, but we're about a 750,000 ton quarry a year. That's about a good number that we can sustain. But we're going to continue to need y'all's support with, timely maintenance that needs to be done so that we can protect in this new investment. It just takes a lot to keep it going so that we can crush the amount of stone that we crush. Billy has worked hard with putting this books together, and he's the numbers guy. And we were talking the other day, just in the last 10 years, we went from loading 27,000 trucks in a year to loading 48,000 trucks last year. And we're doing that with the same two operators that we did it with 10 years ago. Not the exact same two, but the number of operators. And so when I'm jumping ahead, but as we move forward and we get our new box in place, we're going to be able to restructure our staff to move them in a different place, but we can talk about that later. But today's basics need is to get y'all's support for, selling the plant. It'll go through, of course, the government process that requires procurement to get involved, and we have to, we'll probably do it on gov deals. And we feel like that we're gonna, find some interested parties, even if it has to be sourced out in pieces. But somebody may want the whole thing, to start over with, or some small plant or something. There's a 30 by 55 jaw. It was updated in '99. There's a 52 cone crusher that was retrofitted in 2014. And there's a 44 finishing cone that is a 2016 model. And then there's a couple of screen decks, and there's several feeders and conveyors and other storage components that will be sold. We will require that whoever purchases it, remove it from the site. And we'll have to work through all the necessary insurance and stuff there to get it done appropriately. Do you gentlemen have any questions, or have I think I've given you enough information?
I've got one for you. You said something about maintenance. Have you got a schedule or thinking about a schedule for maintenance?
Yes, sir. We talked about it about a year ago, you gentlemen. We feel like that that same idea that we proposed a year ago or so is still a good plan for us. We feel like that if we could dedicate 4 hours a week with our staff that is on site, and during the regular shift, we can put more of a concentrated effort on individual things that we know that we've got to do and get it done in a timely process. We really feel like Fridays would be good, because if we did it on a Friday, then if we didn't completely get through, then we'd have Saturday to sort of jump on it and finish it up. But we would stay open to the public for the products that we've had made that we hadn't sold. But that way we could really, get down and get into some in-depth investigating that has sort of caught us off guard. We've been caught off guard with some tail pulleys that the new plant that we have is more compact, and it's not as open. So it's a little bit harder to see what's going on without really being stopped and actually taking guards off and getting in there and crawling around under it to investigate it. And you can't do that while you're running. And it just seems like most people do. You just get caught up in the production side. And if you're not real careful, if you don't do the right maintenance, you can't produce. But that's our plan. We're going to be trying to come back to y'all basically with that plan to allow us 4 hours a week on a Friday that we can dedicate, solely to that maintenance. And then that way I can utilize my whole staff, or I can use 12 members or 15 members of my staff that can actually be doing that during shift time. Right now, it's real hard to get people. We've got about 3 people that'll work over, and plus me and Billy. And it's hard to ask them week after weekend to work and to not be able to spend time with their families. And, some of them are there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we don't leave till we tear it into something and we get it fixed at times. We had a pretty bad week a couple of weeks ago where we had to redo our comb. And my plant mechanic had 96 hours that week. I had 80 hours. And, we just need some dedicated time, shift time, that I can get more people to work on it and require them to be there, during their shift. But that's our plan right now.
Do you feel 4 hours is enough?
I feel like if you'd give us that opportunity to put that into place and to try it, then we wouldn't be losing anything. And then if we had to do something else, then we could make adjustments. But at least that way, we would have the opportunity to say, yes, it works, or no, it's not working, or we need more time. But we feel like that. Billy, give me some numbers there. What's,
With a very conservative estimate,
Microphone, please, sir.
I'm sorry,
That's okay, Mr. Biggs.
no worries. We would be able to put at least 15 employees on it. So 4 hours a week would give us 60 labor hours. Those 60 labor hours would probably be split between 4 or 5 projects at a time. And like Tom was mentioning, with our plant being so compact as it is now, to even do the in-depth inspections that we need to do, it needs to be shut down. And again, when we got folks that are working 80, 90 hours a pay period, they don't want to be there to rip it apart just to inspect it for something that might be wrong. That 4 hours would be pretty helpful. Like I say, just 4 hours gives us at least 60 labor hours, and probably a little more than that, because we'd probably use 18 or 19 most weeks.
and you did some math that, on what actual
Yeah.
downtime that we're having. We're experiencing, some intermittent downtime that we shouldn't be, based on the fact that we can't do some of these inspections.
The last study we did, 72% of the unexpected downtime that we have would have been caught in that 4 hours. Now, 28% of it was gonna happen either way.
We gonna break down.
You're gonna
It's
rip
a
a
rock
belt,
quarry.
it's a violent process, so things are gonna happen. And 28% of that, at that time, I haven't redone the numbers, because honestly, I was a little discouraged. But at that point, 72% of the unexpected wouldn't have happened. And if we can at least tell our customers, okay, we're gonna be down Friday at lunch, and everybody knows that that's a heck of a lot better than having a bunch piled up at the belt and then something happens,
And
And
a
this
lot of-
bad week we had a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if Tom really wants me to say this, but I don't think it would have happened if we had this, because a tail pulley broke. We were already gonna be down for 2 days to do a build, wound up being down a whole week. We're down a whole week because the tail pulley broke. When the tail pulley broke, the belt stopped. All the rock that was still crushing goes in the crusher, raises the cone, does all sorts of damage. The loop system was slapped full of dirt that all had to be disassembled and polished, and the entire crusher had to be disassembled and polished, again, because a tail pulley we didn't catch.
And thankfully, we had our components on site, and, we feel good about everything, because now, after running for a week and a half, 2 weeks, we've got good clean oil, and, we've done our due diligence to make sure that, we're good. But,
Selling 4,000 tons a day, basically.
it's unbelievable. It's just really crazy. Sometimes I don't see how that we've done what we've done, really. But I know you hear a lot from the public that we're not doing very good, and we, can't keep up and blah, blah, blah. But when the rock hits the ground, the loaders are waiting on it to put it on a truck. And I don't know if you gentlemen, I'm sure you all have had a shovel and you've tried to clean up the last little bit of a pile of sand or dirt or whatever, and getting that hemmed up in that shovel is hard. Well, you can imagine having to wait every few minutes just to get enough rock to get that machine to pick it up and put it on truck. And that's what they're doing. I mean, it's a pretty intense project, and I'm so proud of our staff because we have got a really dedicated staff that, gives 110% every day. But Mr. Hart, I do think that that's what we would do, and I do think, Mr. Mize, that 4 hours would be sufficient to get us up.
I just want to make sure that 4 hours would be adequate. I realize that's a, like you said, a very violent operation. That machine takes a beating, and it's not a Toyota. I like Toyotas. If you don't change oil in them, they're gonna break down. So,
So just so we stay, so the first motion, I guess requested would be to look at selling the existing old quarry.
Plant.
Plant, sorry.
yeah, we won't sell the quarry.
No, it's not. So, to go through that process and bring that to council. A motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion on selling the old plant?
Old plant.
All in favor?
That is 3-0.
So on the complaints that I get, most of it is consistency. It's really not y'all, it's consistency. So in my opinion, Friday closing down early is not gonna do the job. What I would look at, and what I would like to see is if, the majority of people looking at what I've seen on Sellwise, everybody starts and they have to have their rock for the morning to start the day. After they get the rock, I know y'all always have people coming and going. If we worked on something that would be more of a consistent, my problem with choosing a day is people are gonna say, well, cause that was originally, I think we were talking about like a Wednesday. Well, here's the council up here goes, yeah, sounds like a good idea. So you're down on Wednesday to fix it up. And you're not back up and then you're closed on Thursday. So it's hard to say, hey, we're gonna do this on Friday. What happens if it happens on Thursday? One of the things that I was, and I've, thought about, I've talked to Mr. Brock about it a good bit too. And then looked at all the research that y'all have had over the years, and even when we were buying the original plant, is there a possibility, and would it meet demand if, like, let's say Monday, right now you're 7:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, okay? So if you did Monday and Tuesday, full days, if you did Wednesday till 12, Thursday till 12, and then depending on what y'all wanted to do on Friday and Saturday, that would give you 8 hours midweek to get things up. The biggest problem is when people get there in the morning and there's nothing there. So it's almost to the point of, how much rock can we make? We make 4 times what you're making now, we're gonna sell 4 times what we're making. So is anybody ever gonna be happy? Probably not, because the demand is so high. So my thought process is what does that look like if we say, okay, if Wednesday and Thursday afternoon we're doing maintenance, does that actually bring our time that our quarry is running up, which I think it would, which would produce more rock, instead of saying, hey, on Friday, most people, if they're gonna take time off, they take it off on Friday.
That was the reason, really the main reason we did it, because we asked a lot, we did a survey with a lot of our customers, and we didn't really have much pushback on a Friday afternoon, because a lot of them do shut down early.
The problem that I think that we're gonna have is getting apart. If you locate an issue on Wednesday, or if you locate a problem on Friday, how do you get the problem fixed by Monday?
Well, we would choose which, most of the time we'd be able to choose that as we went, because we would be managing each individual repair or whatever we need to do. And quite frankly, we've done a really good job of getting our stock sort of up to speed. And we have a lot of components that we can actually change out without being too concerned about getting them ordered in. Because a lot of stuff still comes from overseas.
Well, and based on what I can tell, my feeling is if we did a Wednesday afternoon and a Thursday afternoon, I think your consistency of the crusher running is better. I think a single day is not gonna do it. And if we say we're gonna close down like a full day, like was talked at earlier, and then you're down the next day, then everybody's really gonna be up, calling us. So, my opinion is to look at it, not make the decision, but to look at that and go, okay, if we did, everybody's there in the mornings, right? The line is ready to roll. So, to me, if your production can improve while being out 2 days in the afternoon, what does that look like? Because most of your construction guys are on the site.
That
Their
would mean
complaint
that-
is my CDL guys are sitting there in the truck waiting 2 hours and stuff. That's the biggest complaint I hear.
That would mean Thursday morning there wouldn't be any rock there, and Friday morning there wouldn't be any rock there. Now, I'm not trying to be smart, but we're gonna sell we're gonna sell Wednesday morning what we've made. And Thursday morning, what we get made before we start maintenance again, we're gonna sell. So there's gonna be 2 mornings that we're not gonna have stone there. And if we have that Saturday to be as a backup, Mr. Davis, we have enough people that would stay over and finish that that project. You know what I mean? Like if we had extra time that we needed to get that extra project done, and we're talking about 4 hours a week. Right now, we don't have anything.
What's the latest that y'all can make stone that we're legally allowed to for guys?
It's more of a tonnage limit, and we are nowhere near it. We can make stone,
So
no problem.
my question to that is, if, I feel like employee-wise, we need more employees. I don't think that's, when you start looking at that, because it's like if you're down for maintenance and you bring it back up, you make, if you made 3 hours worth of stone and you went down for maintenance from 12 to 4, and you started making stone from 4 to 7, then you got your morning. Like I said, I'm just trying to
Right, throw
troubleshoot
some
the whole
ideas
thing,
at us.
where it's not, you may go down for maintenance, and your maintenance may take you an hour that day. Next week, it may take you 3 hours.
Well,
Because right now, if you look at consistency, sometimes you're down for 2 days fixing the problem. So, to me, your maintenance window may only need to be an hour or 2 hours, and then you're back up making stone for the next day. Consistency to me is what I hope that we're at, because right now it's like, we don't know whether they're up or not, and back and forth. So I'm just trying to think out loud together,
right.
what's the answer?
If we get to a point to where we start not needing more than an hour to do maintenance, we'll run. So if we end up getting a little ahead of the game, and on Fridays, if we feel like we're in a whole lot better shape, we may not do maintenance that day, we may run.
The thing about running a maintenance shift is it would really cut into our profitability, because right now, if you're running a quarry, you gotta have a safety guy on staff, you gotta have management on staff, you gotta have a DOT approved person on staff, and an EPA method person on staff. Well, right now, we have all of that in-house during shift. If we're talking about adding a lot of specialty jobs just for a maintenance shift that they wouldn't even be used in, that we'd be obligated to hire. It really hurt our profitability quite a bit to run a maintenance shift.
Well, if the consistency improved and the stone improved, that could outweigh that. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm. We can certainly try to,
Well, there wouldn't be so much pressure on the entire staff, because I get it. I know what y'all are going through. And it's
Yeah.
like, we can't make anybody happy. You're making a lot of people happy. It's just the consistency portion of it is not.
We're making a
Their
lot.
jobs are waiting on the stone, and it's like, are we gonna have it or not have it? So to me, I think if we entered into a timeline, 2 or 3 hours, you know, maybe it's one day. Maybe next week, you don't have to do the 2 days down, and you're making stone. So you have triple on the ground. You know, I don't know.
Have you got any statistics to where if we came to you and said, you make stone wide open up until noon on Friday. You sell stone, whatever gets gone, you shut down at noon on Friday, you start your maintenance period. And then you do periodic maintenance every week. It may be you go in, you clean the hoppers, you clean the belts, pulleys, whatever, grease, whatever you gotta do. And you get on a routine maintenance program. Have you got stats that would say, we'll lose this much revenue?
Well, we
I'm
make
in
about
favor.
15
I worked at Duke 40 years. I know what a PM program looks like. And if you don't have one, that equipment ain't gonna last. So I know the demand is high, and there's gonna be more talk about the crusher coming up. You've got other problems. We got folks coming from out of county, out of state, and I've got some ideas about that to help with this problem. But, and I feel the pain of some of these guys that's come up here that are county residents, and I feel like some of the county residents can't get rock because it's being taken elsewhere.
Well, by ordinance, we are, required to supply the county entities with rock first, roads and bridges, parks, whoever, the municipalities, and the county citizens. And if there's any rock left over after that, it can be sold as surplus. And I'm afraid we're sort of lost that perspective, because we're trying to make this into a private quarry. And we just really need to make sure that we do what our ordinance tells us to do first, and then, allow these people to, right now, we're getting taken advantage of. People are getting rich on us.
For the sake of time, we'll have to wrap this up, but I believe it's worth looking into bringing back a maintenance plan, what y'all think you need, what's your current, obviously, we're doing maintenance currently.
Oh, yeah.
anyway, So.
Every day.
But figuring out what that would look like, if it's a midweek, we'll just bring back a couple of things when we have our next meeting, it'll be a couple of months from now. But for the sake of time, I know the one thing we need to get accomplished was to bring that forward. So I don't want to take into plan economic development coming up. Anybody else have anything?
Mr. Davis, if I may. Bringing this plan back with the motion from council during the last council meeting, the regularly scheduled council meeting, can we combine this discussion with the workshop for the quarry discussion?
That'd be fine.
Anybody opposed?
Yeah.
I'll bring that up tonight at council, but I just want to make sure this
Okay.
committee was okay with it first.
Yep. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your